myself. But yes,
Right.
please join our tech forum.
Yeah, and I want to end
Thank
with
you.
saying, for those that still have this little thing stuck in their head about, communications and media working together, and who's in charge, who's the boss. But let me just say this, Latasha and I don't have those conversations. We just work together and we get the job done as a team. Don't be too preoccupied with who's in charge, okay? Because that can throw you off. I recognize her and respect her as our communication director. She's brilliant.
Aw,
I can't do
likewise.
half of the stuff that she does, okay? And
Likewise.
I stay in my lane, and I just am here for support. And I'm happy to do it, and have been doing it for next March will be 36 years.
36. I knew it was over 35. Wow. Amazing. Yes. And I second everything he said about me, about him. He's also brilliant, also wonderful to work with. And that's how we're able to be successful, because we're both mission minded. We want to see things happen, and whatever it takes, we're both willing to work together to see it come to fruition. And we hope the same for all of our teams out there. Thank you, Charles, so much. We always love to hear you share your wealth of knowledge with everyone. And please, everyone, don't forget to join the Tech Forum Tuesday, every second and fourth Tuesdays. Thank you, Steve, for putting that link in the chat for those who want to check it out. You can come one Tuesday, 2 Tuesdays, every Tuesday. Well, every Tuesday they're there. Just join in. All right, it's 6 o'clock, and now it's time to transition to our next presentation. We will be streaming this, so welcome to our streaming audience. You are now part of our Connection and Ministry Conference, which we call CamCon. It's our communication conference that we hold every year. This year, we're focusing on rethink, revise, reset. So we've been sharing tools and different things that we can do to improve our communication ministries. And we're very excited because our next presenter, his name is Larry Witzel. And I'm just going to share a little bit about him. He is a respected innovator and inspiring speaker at the intersection of technology and ministry. As founder and president of Sermon View Evangelism Marketing, he leads a team providing event marketing, church websites, Bible study lead generation, and interest tracking services to churches throughout the North American division. Larry has spent nearly 30 years in marketing and public relations. His resume includes stints in organizations as varied as Intel, WellSource, La Sierra University, North Pacific Union Communication Department, and a variety of technology startups. In 2001, he joined It Is Written as the director of its digital media group, leading a team of 15 young creatives in creating cutting-edge resources for evangelism before founding Sermon View in 2005. Larry has a BA in theology and mass media from Walla Walla University, and he has earned his MBA from the University of Washington's Foster School of Business, and he's currently studying in the PhD program for strategic media at Liberty University. Oh, a lot there. He's a tech team leader and musician at his local church, is the chair of the board for the Columbia Adventist Academy, and serves on the Oregon Conference Executive Committee and Pacific Union College Board of Trustees. He lives with his wife and 2 children in Vancouver, Washington. So welcome, Larry. We're glad that you have joined us.
It's great to be here.
Yes, we're so happy to have you. And I think you've been here a little bit, so you kind of know that I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah. Hit me. What do you got?
All right, let's see what we have for you, Larry. All right. Yep. Okay, what's something you've been meaning to try but just haven't gotten around to it? Okay, what's something you've been meaning to try but just haven't gotten around?
Well, I've tried it, but I really want to get certified as a sport parachutist. I want to get my skydiving license.
Wow.
I started the process many years ago, and it's something that I've been thinking about. Not that I have all kinds of time to go out on Sundays and go jumping, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
All right. Well, we'd love to see that happen. Please let us know when you finally get that done. That's definitely one for the bucket list. All right, Larry, we're going to give you your time and turn things over to you. Floor is yours.
All right, thanks, Natasha. So my goal for you guys today is to leave you with something practical that you can put to use this week in your ministry. Latasha, I need to give you a heads up. We've been having an internet outage here in my neighborhood over the last hour. It's cut out 2 or 3 times. I have my mobile device set up as a backup. So if I disappear, I'll come back on my mobile phone. I won't have slides. I don't want to do that generally, but so if I disappear, I'll be right back. Latasha mentioned at some of you, we have a passion for ministry and we're nerds for marketing. We believe that church exists for those who are not yet a part of it. So our passion is helping churches like yours reach people in your community who are ready to connect with you. We do that by helping you market your evangelistic events. We do that by finding people in your community ready to study the Bible with you. We also help churches turn their websites into an evangelistic engine, and that's what I want to talk about today. I've got a lot of material that I want to plow through in the next 45 minutes. I'll leave room for questions here at the end. Let's see. All right. So some things that we're going to be talking about. Here's where we're going. I'm going to start by talking about why. Why does a church need to put thought into your website? Then I'm going to hit some key things that every church website needs. I'll be showing a couple of, I'll be showing our demo website as well as an actual website from one of our church clients. This incorporates a lot of the things I'll talk about, the key things in a website. I'll kind of show how we handle those in this demo website. Then I want to talk a little bit about Google advertising, which is a great way to make sure that your church website gets seen in your community. And then finally, I'll talk about our new evangelism websites program that we're making available to churches. I will mention a special offer that's available only to people that are actually on the call today. And then we'll end with some questions. I want to let me turn this off. All right, I want to be able to look in the camera for a couple of minutes while I tell this story. So a couple of months ago, my daughter and I visited a college in Tennessee. She's a high school junior. She's a worship leader at our church. So we like to get out and visit other churches whenever we can and experience other church cultures. And on this trip, we were going to be there all weekend. So we decided that I would pick a church to attend on Sabbath morning. And then we also picked a church that she picked to visit on Sunday morning too. So we were able to hit 2 churches in one weekend. I wanted to experience worship at a regional church. Zoe wanted to go someplace with a good contemporary worship band. So what's the thing that we did? It's a foreign part of the country. We've never been there before. We don't know anything about the churches. What's the first thing we did? We looked on Google, of course. And as we were searching online, I had this moment. We've had a church home for many years, and I haven't gone searching for a church visit in a really long time. And I had one shot to find the right church, to find the experience that I wanted. And the primary means to find that experience is doing Google searches, which then lead to church websites. And as I looked at these various church websites, I found that very few of them were actually communicating to me a potential guest. I needed to know the basics, of course. What time is your service? Where are you located? We're still in a COVID-19 wave at the time, so I wanted to know the masking policy. But I wanted to know more than that. I was looking for a specific type of worship experience and I had one shot. So I wanted to see a photo of worship service. I wanted to know how to fit into the culture of the church. I wanted to see people in the congregation in addition to the worship team. In the end, on Sabbath, we visited the Orchard Park Adventist Church in Chattanooga, and it was awesome. It was a great experience. Music was amazing, great sermon. If you're ever in Chattanooga, highly recommend the Orchard Park Adventist Church. Now, I'm comfortable in church, but I have to admit, it's really intimidating walking through the doors of a new church for the first time, walking into a new space with new people that I've never met. So getting to know that church a little bit better through their website helped me to be a little confident walking through those doors. Same thing for my daughter. Both churches that we visited clearly communicated the church culture through the design, the content, the visuals of the website. Again, we had one chance to find that church experience that we were looking for. And that website was the primary way that we got to know churches in the area. So today, I'm going to be talking about church websites. But before we get into the tactics of an effective church website, I want to talk strategy a little bit. Tasha mentioned that I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a marketing geek, but I'm also an academic. So I need to talk theory for just a little bit. To understand what goes into an effective outreach website, I want to explore the psychology of church guests. In a webinar a few weeks ago, I talked about how God created humans with the innate need to belong to community. And one fundamental reason that people come to a church event, whether it's a worship service or a Bible study or a community event, one fundamental reason why people come is because they're seeking to fulfill this fundamental need to belong. We're social creatures. And although church, of course, has a theological component with a vertical relationship with God, church is fundamentally a social experience with those horizontal relationships between humans. But here's the thing. Humans are uncomfortable with uncertainty. When people think about walking through the doors of a strange church filled with people they don't know, this can cause anxiety. Today, social anxiety is one of the chronic mental health challenges of this age. So we need to do whatever we can do as leaders to lower the anxiety of our guests. And the framework that I want to suggest is called uncertainty reduction theory. Part of this anxiety is the uncertainty of how a social interaction is going to play out. A guest might wonder, if I don't wear a tie, will people treat me differently? Or what if I do wear a tie, but no one else is? Will people be speaking in King James English or use some strange vocabulary that I won't understand? Will people criticize me because my clothes smell like cigarette smoke? Will I get cornered by someone who's trying to save me? In a social setting, people are constantly assessing the environment and predicting how a conversation will flow because uncertainty is comfortable. Now, uncertainty reduction theory tells us several things that people do to reduce uncertainty. When you meet for the first time, there's a cultural ritual that we go through. And a big reason that ritual is to reduce uncertainty. When I shake somebody's hand, when I look them in the eye and I say, nice to meet you, these are cultural rituals that reduce the uncertainty for this other person as to how our interaction is going to go. By acting as expected, I'm helping them feel more confident that the conversation is going to go well, that it's not going to be uncomfortable, that it's not going to go in strange ways. Okay, so what does this have to do with church websites? Online research, another strategy that people use to reduce uncertainty. The primary purpose of your church website is to reduce your guests' uncertainty. I want to say that again. The primary purpose of your church website is to reduce your guests' uncertainty. The pictures on the website should show how people are interacting in the environment, allowing the guests to pick up visual clues about the culture. What are they wearing? How are they interacting? The language on the site should reflect the culture of the church. If you're a conservative church that uses the King James Version in your service, your website should reflect that. If you're a church with a contemporary worship service, you need to show a picture of the worship band to show the culture. The website should be authentic to the experience that guests are going to have when they come through your doors. So let's be clear. Your church website right now is communicating to your guests. And the question is, what is it saying to them? It says something about who you are and what you're about. And a lot of church websites are saying, we only care about our members because our site is filled with bulletin announcements and insider speak. It doesn't have anything specific about that local church, just something about Seventh-day Adventists in general. What does that communicate to guests who visit your website, who are considering coming to your church? Does it make them feel valued? Does it do anything to reduce their uncertainty? Again, the primary purpose of your website is to reduce your guests' uncertainty. They should get a feel from your website about what they can expect to experience when they walk through doors of your church. Okay, enough theory. Let's talk about what goes into an effective church website. Whenever you're creating a communication piece, you want to think about who the audience is. And I just want to say how excited I am to be talking to communication professionals and communication volunteers within the local church. Communicators, Adventist communicators is my tribe. These are my people. So I just love being here with you guys. Neil Gordon wrote this: effective communication preferences the recipient over the sender. Effective communication preferences the recipient over the sender. So anytime you're working on a communication piece, like a church website, you want to think about who your recipient is for that communication piece, for your church website, and what is it they need. And there are three primary audiences for your church website: guests, members, and leaders. All three groups have unique needs, and they also share some needs as well. So let's go through them. Let's talk about guests first. Guests are looking for answers to some really basic questions. When do you meet? Where do you meet? How should I dress? What can I expect when I get there? How can I reach someone if I have a question? Again, for your guests, the primary objective is reducing uncertainty. Communicate who you are, help them decide if your church might be a good fit for their spiritual needs, and then give them a feel for what they can expect to help lower the anxiety of walking through the doors of a strange place. I believe that church is meant for those who are not yet part of it. So your website needs to speak to them first. Now let's talk about your members. Most members have questions that have to do with upcoming events and activities. And their questions go something like this: what was that thing that's happening? There's something coming up. What is it? When is that thing? Where is that thing happening? You know, there's a game night at the church, and they write about it in the email newsletter. They saw it in the bulletin, and now it's the week before, and they're like, what was that thing? What was that thing? And they should be able to go to the website and find out what that thing was. When is it? Where is it happening? Some other questions that they might have include, what are some ministries that I can get involved in? Or if I know of a ministry I want to get involved in, who do I contact to get involved? Can I give tithes and offerings online, and how do I do that? And what about submitting prayer requests or praises online? So again, members are asking primarily calendar questions and things about giving and communicating with the church leadership. And then the last group, your last audience for the church website is your group of leaders at the church. And the primary question that church leaders ask is, who is doing what? Who's the elder on duty this weekend? Who's the organist or the pianist for the worship service? Who's running slides? Who are the greeters? Leaders want to know more logistical questions. Who is doing what? And another question that leaders have is, what was the decision that we made about that thing? I remember talking about it in church board. What was that decision? And then another question is, how are we doing financially as a church? For several years, my own local church, our website had a private login area with documents. So the church board minutes, the financial statements, nominating committee report, the church directory. As a leader, that's actually where I went more often than anything else on the church website, was to go look things up, to go look at the previous minutes or look in the nominating committee report. Who are the people that are involved in this ministry, or to look at the financial statements. All right, so a church website can speak to all three audiences, but you have to be really careful about how you do it. So I want to show you a couple examples of websites that I think balance this really well. So, all right. This is a sample website. Prairie Adventist Community Church is not a real church. We put this together with a fake church, Prairie. But the first thing that you see right off the bat is a great big bold area that shows some pictures, a picture of people in the church environment, and a big welcome statement, and then a simple summary of what we're about. We're a community of faith that loves God, cares for each other, and brings light to the world. And then a big button, I'm new here. We'll go to this page in just a minute. Then also a page about us that talks a little bit more about Prairie. Then on the homepage, we've got upcoming events. We see the next 4 events coming up for Prairie. You can click through to see all of the full calendar of what's coming up in the next few weeks. Then we just have a section that goes into a little bit more detail about who Prairie is, a community of faith, and the 5 keys of ministry. Then a link to more about Prairie. Meet the team that talks about the leadership team of the church and what we believe, because belief is really important to Seventh-day Adventists. Then we have a section that talks about basically how you can get involved. So this is for people that are new members or recently transferred or considering becoming members. This is beyond your first-time guest, but what are some Bible study groups you can get involved in and other opportunities to serve? We highlight 4 different church ministries here. We have a place for prayer and praise to be able to request prayer through the website and submit your praise that the leadership team, the elders, can pray over at each of their elders meetings. We have a place for featured media, and then supporting Prairie by affirming through words of encouragement, or just saying, I'm praying for you, and here's some specific things I'm praying about. Button to give now. On the bottom of every page, this section here that's got a map that shows where the church is, a list of all of the community gatherings of when people are getting together, an address, this button for planning your visit, which goes to the same page as I'm new here, and then some quick links down here as well with a Give Now button down at the bottom. That's the home page. I want to talk about this page for new people. And this language is 100% for guests. Make yourself at home here at Prairie and talk a little bit more, kind of an introductory statement about who we are, and then what to expect visiting on a Saturday morning. We invite you to join us. And then we talk about what to wear. You don't feel like you need to dress up, just wear whatever's most comfortable for you. That's for this fake church. That's what their culture is. For your church, maybe you would say, we believe that the Sabbath day is a day of worship to honor God. And so we always dress our best. or what, it needs to be authentic to your church. I also love what our team did here with this statement. When you arrive at church on a Saturday morning, you might be greeted with a hearty, happy Sabbath. That's a traditional Seventh-day Adventist greeting, expressing our appreciation for your presence and our gratitude for the Sabbath rest that this day contains. If someone walks through the doors of your church and they've never been in an Adventist church before, and the greeter says, "Happy Sabbath," all of a sudden, remember, that's a social convention for Adventists, not for non-Adventists. So all of a sudden now they're jarred with something that they're not familiar with, and the uncertainty and the anxiety can go up. We've given them a heads up. Hey, this is going to be, this might be coming. And then if somebody's read this page and they hear Happy Sabbath, they'll be like, oh yeah, that's right. They said that they might say Happy Sabbath. And I remember it's a greeting. It's a traditional Adventist greeting. Then we talk about Sabbath school. We actually explain what Sabbath school is. Bible study time on Saturday morning begins at 9:30. It's called Sabbath school. We talk about what the quarterly is. Most of our adult Sabbath school classes use a 13-week study guide published 4 times a year called the Sabbath School Quarterly. And if you don't have your own copy, please tell the greeter or your Sabbath school teacher, and we'll get you a complimentary copy. And then we talk what you can expect in the worship service. We list a few events. Again, these are the next 4 events coming up. And then kind of the call to action, welcome home. Prairie Adventist Community Church is a family of believers who want to go deeper in faith. We believe we're stronger together, so we join together every week to hear the word of God, to worship him, and to encourage each other. And we leave empowered to share the good news that his Spirit can change us for good. If you want to find freedom, healing, and hope in Jesus, this is the place for you. Welcome to Prairie. This whole thing is set up to invite and attract someone who's never been to your church, to give them the courage, to motivate them to actually come through the doors of your church and experience your worship service for themselves, or to interact in some other way with the church. We've got an about page that talks a bit more about Prairie and our history. We've got beliefs. We've got a section on the 28 fundamental beliefs with a link to the NAB website. We talk about getting to know Prairie, the church leadership here, and other stuff. I'm not going to go into more detail there, but I wanted to show you the start here where I'm new here, because that's really what that's all about, is reducing the uncertainty of your guests, lowering the anxiety of someone who's considering coming to your church. I want to show you the website for Sharon Seventh-day Adventist Church across the river from us in Portland, Oregon. And just to show you the way that the website is tailored for them. So welcome to Sharon. And this is their purpose statement. Sharon exists to help people understand the Bible, to find freedom, healing, and hope in Jesus. They've got 3 buttons here. They talk about, I'm new here. We have a casual come as you are environment. We think it's important to feel comfortable and show up just as you are. That's their church culture. And talking about Sabbath school, so it's specifically tailored to be authentic to them. All right, so those are a couple of examples of church websites that I think strike a good balance between speaking to guests, speaking to members, and then offering something for the church leaders as well. I want to spend a couple minutes talking about the mechanics of building a website. More specifically, the roles that are required for building a website. This is true for any website, and it's also true for church websites. And these are 4 different roles that each need to contribute to constructing an effective website. I first built my first website 27 years ago for La Sierra University, and I've worked on literally hundreds of websites over the last 27 years. And what I found is that for a website to have maximum effectiveness, all 4 of these roles need to contribute to the end product, to contributing need to contribute toward the creation of this website. All right. 4 roles. The first one is vision. Well, we actually here at Sermon View, when we work on a web project, we call this person the visioner. The visioner. This is someone who articulates what the website is trying to accomplish and then passionately drives the vision forward. Someone needs to have the passion and drive to get this project across the finish line and have a vision for what it's going to be like. That's the visioner. The second role is technical skill. Someone needs to be able to handle setting up a hosting service and building the technical framework of the site. If you're using WordPress, installing WordPress, deciding which plugins you're going to, or Squarespace, there's still a technical element required for getting that thing set up. So someone with technical skill is important. The third is communication skill. Remember, your church website is all about communication. So you need someone who's going to be able to write the copy on the website in a way that communicates to your different audiences. And then the fourth role is user experience or design. This has to do with site navigation and buttons and the photos and the design elements that are used. Most people who want to be involved in a church in a website development project can contribute to at least one role and often can contribute to 2 roles. There are a few really gifted people in the world that are capable of filling all 4 of these roles. However, each role uses a different part of the brain, and transitioning between each of these roles has a pretty high switching cost. And because of this, one person cannot fill all 4 of these roles concurrently. It's just not possible. Believe me, I've tried, and I've seen people try to do it. The only way that one person can handle all 4 roles is to spread the work out of across several days or weeks. You work on one role at a time, and then you give recovery space. You sleep overnight, give it some space to then be able to transition to the next role in order to be able, for one person to be able to do it. But really, the best websites are created by a team whose members each fill one of these roles. And that's how we do it here at Sermon View. When we build websites, when we work on websites, all 4 of these roles are represented by 4 different people on the team. And so I wanted to mention roles because I am talking about to church communicators, and it'll come into play a little bit later on when we're talking about what Sermon View can do to help your church. Okay, so let's say you've got a relevant, up-to-date website that speaks to your guests and members and leaders. That's nice. But how do potential visitors find your website? Google, of course. Now, there are 3 ways that your website can appear in a Google results list. And the 3 ways are what's called an organic listing, in Maps listings, and then through paid advertising. I want to pull up an example here. I did a search for plumber in Vancouver, Washington. So we've got some advertisements at the very top. We've got a map view here that's got 3 listings here. And then we have the what's called the organic listings. So Google builds its database of web pages by going out on the internet, looks at every page that it can find. And once a page is in its database, it checks back every once in a while to see if there's any changes. All right. And it looks at the content of each page, it puts it in the database, and then it uses a proprietary algorithm to decide which websites are going to get displayed for any given search. And it decides what order they're going to be displayed in. So it considers your location, which websites you've already visited, your recent searches to try to ascertain what you're actually looking for. And then it gives you a list of websites that it thinks are going to be most relevant to you. Really, it's pretty amazing technology because it's blazingly fast for the literally billions of web pages that are out there. Now, there are things that a website owner can do to make your website more friendly to search engines. This is what we call search engine optimization. And there are companies that you can hire to optimize your website using keywords and meta tags and a bunch of other tricks. But it can take years for SEO work to actually make a difference. And even then it's fragile. We've had websites here at Sermon View that were number 1 or number 2 ranked for a specific search suddenly dropped to page 3 or 4 when Google updated its algorithm. And that algorithm is updated regularly. There's major upgrades every year or two, but there's constantly tweaks that are being made. So if you can do it, great, but it takes a lot of effort and ongoing attention to be successful at search engine optimization. There are companies that you can hire to handle SEO for you, but we're seeing like low-end SEO services costing $250 a month, $3,000 a year, and going up to $3,000 a month and beyond. They're expensive, and no one will guarantee results because they don't have control over that algorithm that Google has. So when we build a website, we think about SEO and we make sure that the content is SEO friendly. We put the keywords in, we make sure that the content is going to be working to optimize as best we can for search engines, but we don't do active ongoing search engine optimization. And we don't recommend that you put effort into it because the payoff just isn't worth it for a church website. Well, if that's the case, then what can you do? And that's where Google advertising comes in. With Google Ads, you can bid for placement at the top of a particular search. You decide which keywords and phrases are going to trigger your ad. You can restrict it geographically, so you only display it when somebody's searching in the geographic area of your church. You have full control over what the ad says. And because the searches related to your church are fairly specific and infrequent, this can be a really cost-effective way to get seen. So some keywords that you should advertise for your church include things like your church name, Sharon Adventist Church, or Sharon Seventh-day Adventist Church, Adventist Church in Portland, Adventist Church near me, Sabbath church near me, Bible study near me. Beyond that, you should also add some articles to your church website about some specific Bible topics that are really important to Adventists, like the Sabbath. And you wouldn't call it this, but the state of the dead. You probably label it what happens when you die or what happens after death. The second coming, Bible prophecy, end times, healthy living. These are some articles that you should have on the website, and then buy some keywords related to those and direct them to the pages so that if somebody searches for Sabbath in your geographic area on Google, your advertisement can come up and it'll take them to the page that has your content about the Sabbath, but then people can go, oh man, this is a church that believes in the Sabbath. I should check them out. Then go to the homepage and they can find the what to expect when I come to visit. And it's a great way to connect people that are actively searching for information in your geographic area and connect them to the website. It's another way to get them to your website to help them make a choice to actually come through your doors. So these are some keywords, some topics that we suggest that you should have on your website. You can also purchase advertising on Google Maps, and always a little bit nervous. I'm going off script here. I'm going to do a search for plumber in Google Maps, plumber. And yeah, so here we've got an ad for Roto-Rooter that's right on Google Maps. Why is it important to advertise on Google Maps? That's because 1 out of 8 Google searches today are actually directly in Google Maps. Especially with mobile devices, people will go, they'll open up Google Maps on their phone, the map app, and then search in there, and then your ad can pop up right there. So if you were to hire a Google ad agency, you would pay similar rates as search engine optimization. The cost starts at $300, $500 a month for the management fee. It goes up from there, plus the actual Google advertising costs. We've been able to get that a lot lower here at Sermon View, and I'll talk about that in a minute, by aggregating churches together. But I want to tell you about Laura. The question is, does advertising actually make a difference? Is it worth putting a little bit of money into advertising? And I want to tell you about Laura. She grew up a Seventh-day Adventist. She'd gotten disconnected from church, moving around as a young adult. She moved here to Vancouver, Washington, and shortly after that, she decided she wanted to connect with a spiritual community. She searched Bible study near me on Google, and my church was running ads at the time, and we showed up in Laura's search results. And the crazy thing was, she wasn't even looking specifically for an Adventist church. She just wanted a Bible study. But there we were in the results. So she clicked through our website. One thing led to another, and today she is fully engaged in the life of her church. She serves on the Sabbath morning tech team. She's participating in a weekly Bible study group. I saw her a couple Sabbaths ago launching a new young adult ministry with some of our other young church leaders. Does a church website make a difference? Yes. Does advertising that website make a difference? Yes. Laura found her church on Google. Last month, over 100,000 people searched on Google for the phrase churches near me. Over 50% of church attendees say that a church's website is important in picking that church for a visit. Your website is the online welcome mat for your community, so your website needs to speak to your guests. Your website needs to reduce the uncertainty of your guests. All right. I want to talk a little bit about what some of you can do for your church, and then we'll get to your questions. I know that updating a church website can be a huge undertaking. I've worked on a number of church websites, and it's hard. On top of dealing with Google advertising and keeping the website maps, we'll also cover some additional keywords like Sabbath, what happens when you die, Bible prophecy, pointing to specific pages on your website with content related to those topics. We'll also help you build a new website, because getting people to a website that doesn't actually speak to them is kind of a waste of money. We'd like you to have a strong guest-friendly website, so we'll build you a new website. We'll guide you in discovering the vision. We'll help you with the communication role. We'll completely cover the technical skills and user interface and design. We'll give your website a fresh new look that's mobile friendly, and we'll include some of those other features specifically for members and leaders as well. Building a website could run you $5,000 or more, but we include this as a part of the package. Plus, because of our partnership with Adventist Church Connect, you'll save money on website hosting. Quality uptime, high uptime hosting is going to cost you $500 a year or more. The NAD covers this cost for all Adventist Church Connect website, and our solution is built on ACC, so your church doesn't have to pay for any hosting costs. And with ACC, you have access to make updates anytime you want, but we've heard from a lot of churches that they just don't have time to deal with it, or they're management for you as well. If you want to make a change to your website, just let us know and we'll do it for you. Send us your weekly bulletin. We'll put it in the website each week. Content management is included in this program. On top of that, we will also manage your email. We'll set up your website domain to work for emails, so you can have email addresses like pastor@SharonSDA.net or secretary@SharonSDA.net. We'll set up G Suites for nonprofits, G Suite for nonprofits for your church, and we'll manage the email system on your behalf. You need to set up a new email address for someone, just let us know and we'll take care of it for you. So that's the Complete Plus church solution. We handle all of this for $24.95 for the first year and then $19.95 for each year after that. And then for those who are on the call right now, for the 37 participants on Zoom right now, we'll also give you an additional 2 months for your first year. So instead of 12 months for your first year service, you'll get 14 months. And so if you contact us and ask for a quote on this, talk to one of our campaign managers and just let them know that you were part of CAMCOM, then they'll add those 2 months onto the proposal for you. It's a great program. We are so excited to be able to offer this to your church. Look, I have a heart for the local church. I've worked on hundreds of websites over the years, including a lot of church websites, and I am thrilled that our team has been able to put together this comprehensive solution that works for the local church, that covers everything that you're going to need. And so here's where you can get more information, evangelismwebsites.com, and here's a phone number. I'll leave this up as we get to questions. And man, I got through this in less than 45 minutes. So we got 14 minutes for questions. And I haven't been paying attention to the chat. So if there's a question on here, then I would love to answer that. All right. Anybody have any questions? Feel free to unmute your mic or put it in the chat.
Yeah, question for you. Is the websites that you're offering, are they customized websites, WordPress websites?
So they're based on simple updates using Adventist Church Connect. So the NAD covers the cost of your hosting, and the content management system is the simple update system. And then we've built a theme that layers on top of that has all these various features that are really guest friendly.
Okay. And then do you offer online storage of like sermon videos?
So Adventist Church Connect does through their partnership with Simple Updates. So Adventist Church Connect would be the ones to actually talk to about what that cost is. I'm guessing that somebody on the Zoom call right now is already using that and might know the answer. I don't know what the cost is.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
What if you have a site and you just want to refresh it? We could help you with that. Depends on what you mean by refresh. We would encourage you to take the work that we've done, the research that we've done, and the navigation, the types of links that we talk about, build that page specifically for guests. So if you have an Adventist Church Connect website right now, we can use that as a starting point, and we can pull some of that content over into the new website. But when you work with us, we actually give you a questionnaire. We ask you some specific questions to help us prepare content for you that's customized and tailored to your church, so it's authentic to your church culture, to your community. Do you do live streaming from the website that you build? Yeah, well, live streaming, you just drop in an embed code. So it's a pretty robust content management system. So you could put in, just add a live stream page, embed a YouTube or Vimeo code or a Facebook Live embed code on there, and people would be able to watch it right on your website. One question that we've received at other times when I give this presentation, if we set up our email, can you use the same with the same domain? Do we have to log into another website, or can we have it forward to our current email? And the answer is yes, whichever you prefer. We would be setting up Google G Suite for nonprofits. So you would essentially have a Gmail account with your dedicated email address. So Sharon Adventist Church in Portland is a great example. The church secretary uses Gmail and she logs in every day, and that's what she uses for email. But the pastor has his email, pastor at SharonSDA.net, that forwards to his personal email. So, and then you can set up, if you're using Gmail as your personal email, you can set it up so that you can be sending email from your personal Gmail account using the return address or using the from address from the G Suite for nonprofits email system. So all right, any other questions? All right, so I either bored you to sleep,
I'm here. No, you're
which
great.
wouldn't surprise me. I'll read to my kids, and next thing I know, I'm sleeping. So whatever.
No, this was great information. Don't take silence for lack of interest. This is awesome. Often our churches are reaching out to us with ways that they can improve their website. So all of the information you shared was very, very helpful. I did have a couple of questions as we wrap up. From your vantage point, what do you feel is the number one mistake that most churches are making with websites?
With their church website?
Yes.
Doing nothing. I mean, there's 6,000 Adventist churches in North America today. 2,500 of them have what they call version 1, which is just the template with news articles from the NAD and information that's populated from eAdventist, and that's it. If eAdventist doesn't have the pastor's name, that church website doesn't even have the pastor's name. So number one mistake is doing nothing. And we've had discussions internally about whether having one of those websites is better than nothing, and we're not sure. We wonder if it might actually be better to not have a website than to have one of those that is not localized in any way. And then the second mistake is not speaking to guests, because your church website, you're going to get the majority of people who come to your website are going to be guests. Your leaders and members might come more often, but in total, the number of people that are coming to your website are primarily going to be guests, and you need to speak to them. You need to be helping them understand who you are. You need to be reducing their uncertainty, reduce their anxiety for actually walking through the doors of that church. So those are
Great. That's very helpful. Now, I know sometimes people have had websites, inherited websites from other people who have managed them previously. Do you ever find that it's sometimes better to just start from scratch, like to completely kind of not even try to correct and edit this or that one, but to completely start from scratch?
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned a couple of things, and Elder Williams in the last presentation talked about this as well, with the having a volunteer who managed the website and then leaves, and all of a sudden you've lost access to that website. So here's the thing: if you are using Adventist Church Connect, you can just contact Adventist Church Connect and say, "Hey, this person's gone. Can you give me credentials?" And Lonnie will hook you up. There may need to be a phone call made to the pastor or to the church clerk. You know, whoever's listed in eAdventist is authoritative for that church. There may need to be a phone call to them, but once they get authorization, then they can give you the keys to the website again, if you're using Adventist Church Connect. If you're not, Adventist Church Connect is a great platform. And it's solid web hosting, it's high uptime hosting, and it doesn't cost anything to churches. So if you have a church website that's not on ACC and you don't have access to it, yeah, absolutely, start over. Just start over with ACC. And even if you do have a website, I mean, look, I'm a web professional. So anytime I'm coming in, I'm wanting to start with a clean slate. And I want to say, who's my audience? Who are my audiences? How am I going to speak to them? What are the pages that we need? How do we want to do the navigation? So for me, it's always easier to begin from a clean slate. And if you were to work with us, we would essentially be starting with a clean slate. But again, we would be working with you to develop that content, to decide what is the messaging that you want on there, and then laying that out in a way that's going to speak to guests, to members, and to your leaders.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great. I know I often kind of go back and forth with that, even when we're talking about our conference website. Because sometimes if you see the information, it's kind of like decluttering your own house. Like you convince yourself that you still need it just because it's there, but if it was gone and you were starting from scratch, you wouldn't miss it. So I wondered if it was the same kind of thing. Okay. All right. Well, any more questions? I don't see any more questions in our chat, but Larry, we thank you for this awesome presentation on websites and how we
My
can
pleasure.
use them.
Hey, again, you guys, I love church communicators and what you're doing. The fact that you've taken time out of your week to come participate in CamCom. I just want to celebrate that and encourage
Anthony,
you
not so loud.
just move forward in the mission. Church exists for those who are not yet part of it, and you have a crucial role in getting the evangelistic message out there. So thank you for what you guys are doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Well said. We are here to rethink, revise, and reset, and you've given us some ways that we can do that with our presence online. So thanks again, Larry. All right, everyone. Well, that wraps up day 2 of CamCon 2022. I do want to do a quick little rundown of what we can expect tomorrow, because we just continue with all of this awesome information that's been prepared for you. So very quickly, tomorrow's schedule, we start again at 12 p.m. Same place. How you got here today is how you'll get here tomorrow. We start at 12. The presentation starts at 12:15, but make sure you come here at 12 for some preliminary announcements, and so that you don't miss out on our $100 gift card drawing. If you're watching us online and say, hell, how can I be a part of this conference? You can register at visitaec.org/CamCon, which is CAMCON. So tomorrow we're going to have Stephen come back to us, Stephen Woods, with part 2, designing your online ministry, and talking about graphics and learning how to do some of those cool things that we see happening out there, how your church can know the right colors, the right images, and all of that stuff. Steve's going to share that with us. And then we're going to have a special presentation from Phyllis Ware-Lee. Some of you may be familiar with her, very well known in our church, just kind of a brilliant woman in her own right. And she's actually going to come talk to us tomorrow about regional conferences. That's something kind of more of our information side of things. Why are we here? How did we get started? What is the Office of Regional Conference Ministries? How does that relate to us in our churches? And just a little bit more about diversity. We want to make sure that we're educating you so that you can go back and educate your churches about the things that are impacting us within our church. And then we have a special presentation from Aaron Monapo. Now, Aaron is awesome. He's one of our media leaders from one of our churches, the First Indonesian Church. He shared with one of our webinars. Aaron has consented. I think he's going to maybe working with his team as well to show us. You guys are always talking about how you want to see demos, how his church sets up for production. So he's going to, in his own way, show us how they do it from start to finish. So those of you who can't kind of visualize what all goes into a media production, and we learned this production today, Aaron's going to be able to share that with us. So we're really excited. We hope that you'll come back and join us tomorrow, like I said, at 12 p.m. And then right after that, I cut it off too soon, but right after that, we're actually going to have our CamCon Awards. I'm really excited about our CamCon Awards because this is our opportunity to really highlight what you guys are doing, to be able to see what some of the other churches are doing with their streams, with their video production. We're even going to hear from churches who have needs, and they've shared those needs, and they've asked us to help them fund some of the ideas that they have for their churches. So we can't wait to give away some of those financial resources that some of you are saying that you need. We want to be able to do that. And so we hope next year more and more of you will submit. I just can't believe that some of you are letting money just go away to other people when you could have it too for your ministry. So we hope next year and you're going to hear me say this again tomorrow, that your church will enter the Camcon Awards so that you can continue to grow the ministries that you are. All right, that's enough of that spiel. Like I said, we'll see you tomorrow, 12 o'clock, Camcon 2022. Rethink, revise, reset. Let's pray to close out. Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much for everything that you've allowed us to experience day 2. We have so much knowledge now, so much information. Help us to process it and come out with what you need us to do for our specific ministries. Father, please be with us as we sign off of this conference. Be with us as we go about the rest of our evening, but bring us back together tomorrow afternoon so we can continue to build on the foundation that has already been set. Thank you so much for our presenters today and their ministries as well. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, everyone. Good night, and we will see you tomorrow at 12 p.m.